Welcome to Russ's Kitchen. Now, who doesn't like delicious pizza? I'm going to show you a recipe where you can make restaurant style pizzas, authentic, gorgeous, in your own home. It's going to be amazing. You follow these steps and I guarantee you're going to have amazing results. If you are going to be serious about making some pizza at home, what I really would encourage you to do is invest a little bit in some basic equipment. It's going to make all the difference. So let's have a look at what I like to use. First of all, I've got a proving tub. Now this is a real game changer. When I started using this, it totally changed how I made pizza dough, and I'll be explaining why a little bit later on, but it's a brilliant thing to have. I've got a pizza stone here. Now this is a really good thing to start off making your pizzas. They're not that expensive and you'll get some brilliant results using a pizza stone. But if you now want to go up a level, you can invest in a pizza steel. What's the difference between a pizza stone and a pizza steel? Well, the pizza stone gets really hot, and like I said, great results, no problem at all. The pizza steel gets even hotter and it retains the heat. What we're trying to do is get the kind of results that you might want to get if you actually had a pizza oven. Well, of course, pizza ovens are not cheap, so this is a brilliant way to get almost as good results, and I'll be explaining later on little tricks to make sure your pizzas come out absolutely amazing. And a decent steel bowl, quite important. And of course, if you're going to put pizzas onto a pizza stone or a pizza steel, you're going to want a pizza peel to put them on and get them off. And again, these aren't expensive. And a probe thermometer. This is a really good bit of kit to have for any kitchen, for any cooking. But with pizza, it's good to know what the core temperature of things like your dough is. We'll be going through that a little bit later. Let's talk about pizza dough. There's lots of different versions of pizza dough. There's versions if you want to make it the same day. There's different versions if you want to make it in advance and use it then later. Lots of different ways to make it. I've made pizza dough different ways, and I have to admit they all work. So this is what I've decided is my personal favourite pizza dough recipe. It always works for me, so I'm going to share it with you. Follow these steps and I think you're going to be pretty impressed with what you get at the end of the day. So let's start with a teaspoon and a half of salt. I've got about 3 grams of fast acting yeast. You don't need any more than that, just 3 grams. You see recipes that will say 7 grams, which is a normal sachet. No, you don't need it. So 3 grams mixed with some lukewarm water, that's going in. Now the most important thing that we've got in here as well is our flour. 00 flour, please don't try and use anything else. It's got to be 00 flour, and I've got 500 grams in here. Also a tablespoon of extra virgin olive oil. Again, you'll see recipes that don't have this, you'll see recipes that do have it. I like it. Now we've got some lukewarm water. This is where your probe thermometer comes in, because ideally the temperature of this needs to be around 27 to 32 degrees. You can use cold water. Again, like I say, I've done it, it does work, but I think this is my favourite. So we're going to start by adding about half the water. It's about 300 mils there, and I've got a plastic spoon, or you could use a wooden spoon, and I'm going to start incorporating the liquid and everything else into the flour. add in the water as we go, as we need it. Now, as that pizza dough starts to come together, cut it with your fingers just a few times, and you'll start to see that the dough is now coming together. So now what I'm going to do is lightly flour the work surface. I'm going to take our pizza dough and start to knead it. Now, there's different ways, again, of making pizza dough. There's some recipes will have you knead this for quite a long time. This recipe that I'm using, which I find is really, really good, you don't need to keep working it for very long. The idea is that what we're trying to achieve is a nice, smooth dough. So I'm not going to be very rough with it, just nice and gentle. Because what we are building up is the gluten in the dough, and we don't want to break it. And already that is starting to come together, and it's starting to feel a lot smoother, and it's great exercise. I don't really want to make it work too much more than that. Now, coming back to our probe thermometer, let's just check what the core temperature is. And the core temperature is now 30 degrees, which is a really, really good temperature. You want it around 25 to 30 degrees. That's going to help it prove. So, got a plastic bowl. I've greased this with a little bit of olive oil. I'm going to take our dough and I'm going to cover that with a damp tea cloth. So this is the first stage of proving. It's also known as batch proving. This is going to prove for around an hour, hour and a half. You can actually leave it for 2 hours if you want, not a problem at all. We're going to come back to this and carry on with this amazing pizza. If you're going to make a really delicious pizza, you need a good pizza sauce. Now, if you're going to use excellent quality canned whole tomatoes, all you have to do then is just crush them, add some salt. That's it. No cooking, no fuss. But if you can't get hold of really, really top quality tomatoes and you're using decent but chopped tomatoes from the supermarket, it's going to be a little bit bland. It's going to be lacking something. So what I decided to do was just spice it up a little bit to make a really tasty, delicious pizza sauce. And this is how I've decided to do it. What I've got is a very finely chopped shallot. Also a finely chopped small clove of garlic. Again, I've got my chopped tomatoes and I've got a pinch of oregano. So let me show you what I'm going to do. I've got a saucepan on a really low heat. I'm going to go in with just a tiny bit of olive oil, just a small drizzle, and then into that I'm going to add the shallot. Going to give that a stir around. All we're looking to do here is just soften that shallot down. So that shouldn't really take very long. And you also need to make sure that it doesn't burn. The shallot is now softened. I'm going to add that little bit of garlic. Give that a little stir around, just so that the garlic starts to cook off. And then it's time for our chopped tomatoes. A little pinch of dried oregano, just a little bit. Some freshly ground salt. And a little bit of ground pepper. Give that another stir. Going to put the lid on and let that cook for about 20 minutes. So that's been cooking down now for 20 minutes. I'm going to take a hand blender and then blend all this down so it's really smooth. And there it is. It's all blended down. We're going to let that cool down now, and that is going to be a really tasty pizza sauce. Our pizza dough has been proving for just over an hour and a half, and I'm going to take this out now onto the work surface. This is the stage where we decide how much we're going to divide. Now, we could divide it into half, thirds, or quarters. It depends on how big you want to make your pizza. I'm going to divide this into half, and that's going to make a really good sized pizza, probably about 12 to 14 inches in diameter, which is great for like sharing and for a family. So I'm going to use a little bit of flour on my hands, and we're going to take the dough out onto the work surface. Now, very sharp knife, I'm going to roughly cut this in half, and you want to do it with a sharp knife or with a dough cutter. Don't tear it. You put all that work in to make sure that all the gluten is working for you in the dough, so you don't want to ruin that by tearing the dough at this stage. A little bit more flour, and I'm just going to work this, stretching it and pulling it back on itself, being careful not to actually tear the dough. And as we do this, you'll see that it starts to tighten up. Let's give that a little roll round so we get a nice smooth dough ball of pizza. And then we're going to pop this into our proving tub. That's now going to go into the fridge overnight. First thing in the morning, going to take the tub out, and then it can sit there all day until we're ready to actually make our pizza, which is going to be probably around late afternoon, early evening. The great thing about the tub is that that pizza dough is not going to dry out. It's just going to sit there, and it's then going to do its second stage proving. Now, if you wanted to make pizza on the same day, then what I would suggest, if you're using this recipe, then make the pizza dough as early in the morning as you possibly can. Don't put it in the fridge, just keep it in the tub and let that sit all day until you actually need it. This piece of pizza dough, I'm going to wrap in cling film, put it in a freezer bag, and that I can store in the freezer and then use it whenever I like. When that's defrosted, trust me, that will still make a really, really excellent pizza. So first thing this morning, I took our proving tub out of the fridge into the kitchen just so that it can do its second stage proving. It's been there all day, about 7 hours. Now, if you're using frozen pizza dough, do exactly the same thing. Put it into the tub the night before. That's going to defrost, take out first thing in the morning, and then just use it later on in the day whenever you're ready. It will work absolutely brilliantly. Trust me, it's great. So the other thing that I'm going to do is turn on the oven to its highest setting possible. I'm using a pizza steel today. If you're going to use a pizza stone or a pizza steel, make sure they go into the oven before you turn the heat on. If you don't, you're going to end up with a very nicely cracked pizza stone, which you don't want. So that has now been heating up for about 2 hours. I'd suggest that you let it heat up for at least an hour and a half, but that's been heating up for 2 hours. What we're trying to replicate is a pizza oven. Now, we're not going to get anywhere near the heat of a pizza oven. This is going to end up maybe about 270, 290 degrees. A pizza oven is going to be around 350 to 370. Now, here's a little tip. A lot of pizza oven will tell you that you need to have a temperature of around 450 to 470. You don't. The only time you're going to need that kind of heat is if you're in a traditional pizzeria in Naples. Now, that may sound a bit strange, but in Naples, pizzerias heat their ovens to around 450, 470, and they cook their pizzas really, really quickly. And they also have a really basic topping, but we don't need to worry about that. We're not in Naples, we're at home. So that's going to be about 270, maybe 280 if we're lucky, but it's going to be absolutely fine. So now let's get our dough out and we're going to start making our pizza. So the first thing we're going to do is make sure that you've got your workstation ready, plenty of room, all your ingredients are ready and all to hand. Now we're going to dust our work surface with some semolina flour. Don't use ordinary flour. Semolina flour has got a much coarser texture and it's going to make sure that nothing sticks. Also, it's going to give the pizza a really nice crust. So here's our pizza dough. How do we stretch our pizza dough? Well, there's lots of different ways you can do this, but essentially you need to start with fingers very gently in the middle, and we're just going to start pushing it out, turning it, pushing it out. You might need to add just a little sprinkling of semolina just to stop your fingers sticking. So nice and gently from the center. Now, there are other ways of stretching the pizza dough. There's some very clever ways. If you're experienced, you can start slapping the pizza, stretching, slapping it. Simply stretching it with your fingers and your hand. Another way that you can take the pizza about an inch from the edge, pick it up just so that the bottom of the pizza is resting on the work surface, and just feed it through your fingers. And you'll see already that this is starting to stretch and become a nice round pizza. You don't want to go too thin in the middle. If it does, don't worry about it. Just pinch it back. Now, if you do find that your dough is shrinking back again, it probably means that you just need to let it rest for maybe another 10-15 minutes. And of course, what we're trying to get is a thickness around the crust. And as you can see, gently working it, and it's starting to become our pizza. It's gone a little bit holy there. I don't care. I'm just going to pinch that back together. Maybe stretch it a little bit more through my fingers. And then we're going to transfer this onto our pizza peel. So we're going to take a little bit more of the semolina flour and just dust the pizza peel with that, and pick up our pizza, put it on the peel, and then just stretch it until we get the kind of shape that we're looking for, which obviously, if we can do it round, is great, but if it's not, we really don't care. Now, how about we make a traditional, gorgeous, simple pepperoni pizza, because it is so popular and so easy to do. So the first thing is to get some of our wonderful tomato sauce, and then with the back of a spoon start to spread it, and you don't want to go right to the edge. Leave it about an inch, half an inch. So you don't want to have too much tomato sauce. It doesn't need it. And with what I've got left over, that can be portioned up, put in the freezer, and then I've got tomato sauce whenever I like. So the next thing is some grated mozzarella, or if you're in New York, pizzeria, moots. Now you can, if you wanted to, just use ordinary cheddar cheese, but there is no reason why you shouldn't use lovely mozzarella. And of course, this is going to be a gorgeous pizza. Now, I've said I'm using a pizza steel today. You might want to use a pizza stone. If this is your first attempt, there's absolutely no reason why you can't make it in a shallow oven-proof pan. What you'll be doing then is making a New York pizza pie, or what they often call is a grandma pizza. On top of that, we've got pizza pepperoni. Generously put a lot of pepperoni onto our pizza. Great. So the next thing to do is transfer this pizza onto our pizza steel. Now, if this is your first time doing this, you might want to give it a couple of goes. You can have your dough, give it a try, because it just takes a little shuffle, but you might want to try that before you actually do it for real. But I'm now going to put this onto our pizza steel. The other thing that I've done, little trick here, like I said before, we're trying to replicate a pizza oven. Now, one of the ways that we can do this is by turning our oven, switching it to its grill setting, still on maximum heat. So that's been on now a grill setting for about 20 odd minutes. This is going to replicate the heat that you're going to get in a pizza oven that comes over the top. Now, we're not going to get the flames, we're not going to get anything like that, but it's a little cheat that might just make your pizzas even more impressive. So this now goes into the oven. And there you have a gorgeous homemade pizza. Now, I did promise you that it was going to be as good or almost as good as any restaurant pizza. I've got to admit, that's not bad. On a pizza steel, about 4 to 5 minutes. On a pizza stone, maybe about 8 to 9 minutes. But that is a gorgeous, fresh, homemade pizza.